Hello, my name is Anthony Trahair and I help people find fulfillment in life after work. And today we're going to talk about what to do when you don't know what to do. So often it happens that we really have a whole series of possibilities of what we could do. And we might wake up in the morning and it's like, what am I going to do today? Sometimes it can get a bit too much, all of this thinking. So there's a very simple way of resolving this, and it's based on the first principle of permaculture, actually, which is, before I'm going to say it, I'm going to give you a little clue. And it's not about collecting flowers. These beautiful irises have come out now, and it's about really observing them, observing things around us. So we're shifting away from what I'm actually interested in doing to connecting. And I could say they're irises, right? Or I could look at them and see all different colours, see how they're amazing. They almost look like they're animals, right? Look at all that furry stuff going on them. So the first principle, we forget this. This is at the base, right? And I'm going to dive into much more detail about what I mean by this, is observing and interacting. So before we dive into anything, we're going to observe the situation, because whatever problem you might be facing right now, and we all have problems because they're the ways we grow, right? Is to observe the situation, and the solution is always very near to us. So we train how to start observing. So for example, these olive trees that I pruned, I didn't observe that there was a branch still sitting there that I pruned before, right? And there's even another one here. Here it is. But anyway, I could see the shape before. I could see what I would like it to become. And then I prune it, I dive straight into it. So I'm observing before I interact. And in permaculture, we use this in lots of different ways. Permaculture being a way to interact with the land, to be in harmony with the land, but also to be in harmony with our lives. It's not just about gardening, permaculture. But this observing, lots of things wouldn't happen to us, or we wouldn't have problems if we only knew how to observe a little bit more. Observing helps us make much better decisions as well. We never really think about decision-making processes, right? But the more I can observe something, the more I can come up with different solutions, different proposals before I decide, right? So in any situation, when we have just two possibilities, it's always a dilemma. I go there or I don't go there, or I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. But if we come up with a third or a fourth possibility, then it no longer becomes a dilemma, and then we can actually choose, and we're observing and interacting with it. So the more we observe, the more we can learn as well. I observe these cats, how they can sort of lay down and rest anywhere. And that's what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to lay down and rest with my cat. Hey, Callie, how are you? Hey. So sometimes we just get really caught up in all our stuff, and all we need is to step back a little bit and have a bigger view of what's going on in our lives. We can write down what's going on, what the elements are, and observe them in this way to get a bigger vision, to get a bigger view of our world, just to step back a little bit and understand what's going on before we dive in and interact, see what is best, weigh up the options. I'm sure you do this already spontaneously, but to make this a more conscious effort or practice could be very helpful in making the best choices for you. So even though some of us are in our 50s, perhaps in our 60s, we're definitely not in the springtime of our lives anymore. But we can notice here that spring is coming forward, and it's this energy that wants to express itself through the nature. So we can sort of connect to this sort of energy and feel revitalized by it, connecting to the nature and really observing it. But we're not really ever just observing things. What we're doing is we are also participating. I'm feeling what's going on. And I don't want to make that sound strange, but there's an emotional relating going on, and an appreciation as well for life which is going on after these winter months, and the beauty which is coming forward now. So when we really start to observe things, it's not just about what am I going to do about this thing, but it's like, what is it? What does a willow teach me? It teaches me to be flexible in my body and flexible in our mind. As we get older, we tend to get a bit stiffer and harder, but we can feel this sort of softness in our bodies, and it can really help us to relax down and and make better choices. Look how flexible that is. Amazing. So there's another really important part of why we observe. To go through some sort of brain science, let's say very simple brain science, with the two hemispheres of the brain, where nearly all of us are very left brain focused, and it's very much more developed the left brain. This goes back to our schooling system and everything. It's much more rational and logical, and wants to sort of command the world, let's say. And then we have the right side of the brain, which is the more creative, artistic, observing side of the brain. It wants to observe and interact. And there's a beautiful work by Ian McGilchrist, which talks a lot about how the problems in our society come up, the fact that we're so left brain orientated and so little right brain. And it's possible to integrate the two together. But when we observe, we activate a lot more the right kind of the brain. And if you're interested in this, look more into his work. It's fascinating. So observing is also smelling, right? It's not just with the eyes. It's also touching. And also listening. I can hear some bees here. And another really important part about observing is it brings us into our gratitude. It allows us to realize all the wonderful things that we have in our lives. So it takes us out of this mentality of wanting more and more, and we're like, amazing, all these things I have in my life, and it just encourages and lifts our mood and our heart. So if you enjoyed this video, then please share your love in the comments.